friend, Andrew Filipponi, who is reporting that the Niners and Steelers are potentially close to a Brandon Aiyuk deal, is going to join us at 5:15. And I know Andrew a little bit. I've texted with Andrew a little bit already today. And I will say, without having heard him speak at length on it yet, that I don't believe him.
Well, can we just replay the interview we did with him 4 months ago when we had the same conversation where Pittsburgh thought that they were close to getting Brandon Aiyuk, and we did like a 12-minute interview with Mr. Filipponi, and he talked about what a fit and this and that and how Pittsburgh's going to get him, and here we are in August, so maybe we just replay the conversation we had before. Well,
Filipponi, by the way, did y'all see this? He already updated his Twitter with a new tweet. And remember, the guys just mentioned that Cam Marino, who calls himself a national NFL analyst and lead draft writer for NFLDraftBuzz.com. Filipponi just tweeted,
sorry,
Marino is reporting that Aiyuk has been traded to the Steelers.
Okay.
Followed by like 1,400 exclamation points.
Okay.
Which to me is a tell. Why you put the exclamation points? Feels to me like this might be something you want to have happen as opposed to something that is actually happening. But Andrew will be on with us. I'll believe it when I see it. I could very well be wrong. My opinion has changed on this already a couple of times. I told you 2 months ago that Brandon Aiyuk for the future is more important than Deebo Samuel because he's younger and he's less of an injury risk. I flip-flopped. I've changed. Deebo Samuel's more important to this football team than Brandon Aiyuk is. And I apologize for my previous opinion. It has changed.
You don't have to apologize for your opinion. No, you don't.
Well, but I did. So it doesn't matter.
There you go.
Fine. I don't have to, but I did.
Apology not accepted on behalf of my brother Doug.
Do you agree with that? Deebo Samuel's more important to this football team than Brandon Aiyuk is.
Maybe for now, but I don't think that either one of them is more important than the other one for the future. I do think that going forward, they're going to find their way to have a quarterback make 55 or 60 million and have a receiving core that makes next to nothing. So for now, Deebo Samuel's more important, but when you get further down the road and whether or not you pay Brandon Aiyuk or you pay Deebo, I do think that both at some point in the near future will be elsewhere if they're going to be making 25 or 30 million a year.
Both? Why both?
Because you drafted receivers.
Yeah.
And you'll probably draft another receiver or two next year.
Maybe.
And you're going to look for cheaper labor, for lack of a better way to describe it, at that position. When you have a quarterback making $60 million, I think that you're going to look at the Chiefs model and the Packer model and so many other models around football, and you're going to pivot as an organization away from paying these guys huge money.
Well, I mean, listen, just because you're paying a quarterback doesn't mean there's not some room for other players. A lot of teams are paying their quarterback huge dollars, and they've still got room. I get what you're saying. They're going to have to make some cuts somewhere, but I also firmly believe that especially if you're Kyle Shanahan, offensive weapons across the board is not going to be somewhere where you're just going to decide, hey, we're not spending money here anymore. Deebo Samuel is under team control at this point for at least 2 more seasons. Then he turns 30 years old. If I'm the 49ers, my best guess, you can never look too far ahead because guys get hurt. They break collarbones on one play, whatever, hairline fractures, all the stuff that Deebo went through last year. But you look at your best guess right now, and if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I want Deebo for those 2 years. 100%. I don't know that I can't function or can function without him. One thing about that documentary that was abundantly clear, and I forgot some of these moments, is that when Deebo left, the offense stopped. And it wasn't just the 3-game losing streak. It was him leaving the Green Bay playoff game. It was his hamstring going out in the Super Bowl. Things looked one way with Deebo on the field. He was a huge part of their game plan. He would leave the field, and the points would stop. That wasn't necessary. Now, Brandon never really left the field, and that's a feather in his cap. But I forgot what this offense looks like without Deebo Samuel, and I don't think Kyle Shanahan is interested in seeing it anytime soon.
Yeah, anytime soon would be, for me, this year, and then you look at next year where you could possibly get out of the Deebo Samuel contract where he's going to have a cap hit if you keep him of $24 million, and you look at a dead cap number that's about $6 million if you release him post June 1st next year. So I do think that when you look at who do they want to keep more, for this year they'd love to have both. And then after next year, I think you start to look at things a little bit differently when you've got Cowing and you've got Pearsall who you drafted. And if you like them, if they're doing well, then maybe you end up going with cheaper people at wide receiver and you let Aiyuk walk and then you let Deebo walk. At that point, if Deebo is going to be 29, coming up on being 30, and if you're not looking to sign Aiyuk, and right now they haven't signed him to a long-term deal, so you have him play his fifth-year option at $14 million. Deebo's making 28.6, and whatever happens after this year, it happens, and then you can make moves accordingly.
I mean, the more I listen to this and listen to voices and read about it and watch what's developing, I like something Adam Schefter said is actually something that stands out to me. This one is really tricky. It's really tricky. I know that we go A to B. Brandon, good. Brandon, $29 million. That feels good to everybody. I don't think that feels good to the 49ers at all. And so what he deserves and what he's worth is really tricky because I don't know if the 49ers are the right team to give that to him. But I also firmly believe this. Brandon's got no interest in going anywhere else. I don't buy any of it.
Well, it depends on how much that other team will pay him.
Maybe. But honestly,
what did TJ Hushmanzada tell us? He just wants to get paid.
He wants to get paid. He also, though, told us he has no interest in leaving San Francisco.
Correct.
He has said that publicly. He then, days after a trade request, did what? Flew to San Francisco and got himself out there on the field. He goes to meetings. He's
dapping up the GM and the coach.
He is preparing to play the season. He's trying to do it in his tiny little leveraged way, which doesn't really have much of an effect, I don't think. But he knows what the rest of us know. You want to go play with Deshaun Watson?
Russell Wilson?
Drake May? What? In the freezing cold? Dude, you don't want that. And so I get it. He also doesn't want to feel like he cowered in the face of the negotiations.
Shout out Colin.
Yeah, he doesn't want to take $26 million. But I think he also knows the truth. $30 million with the Patriots and $26 million with the Niners? Whew. I don't want $30 million with Drake May and Snow. I have no interest in that at all. But is that like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do? We got to max out the value. Well, you've got a whole career to think about now. What's the next contract if you do that? You ever going to get 1,000 yards again if you go to New England?
Well, we don't even know if there's a contract on the table right now. We know nothing.
Reports say that the Patriots have been willing to do that all the way back to the draft.
I'm talking about the Niners.
Fair.
Like, what are the Niners offering right now? What's on the table? Is anything even on the table? All we know is that Brandon Aiyuk is walking around in sweats and he's holding in and he's not practicing. So I wonder if the Niners are thinking differently now than they did before the draft, because if you were going to trade Brandon Aiyuk, it would have been better off to trade him before the draft like they did DeForest Buckner when they decided that they didn't want to pay DeForest Buckner, and so they traded him before the draft, and they got a first-round pick back, and they were able to use that pick on a player, even though the player didn't work out, but you were able to actually get something for the player immediately. I can't imagine them now on August 5th looking at trading Brandon Aiyuk now and getting what back? Even if it's Amari Cooper and a pick, or if it's Pickens and a pick, or whatever it is and a pick, to add a player now to this offense, I don't even know if you could get anybody as good as Brandon Aiyuk. And if you're in a Super Bowl window, what's the point?
I'm totally with you. The Niners are not in this position where they've got to blink. And again, play the whole thing out. This is not fantasy football. You can't just be like, you take my receiver and I'll take yours. We've got a game in 4 weeks and everybody will be fine.
Right.
You got like nobody. Have you ever taken a snap with Justin Fields, Brandon? Who, by the way, don't be surprised if that's actually Pittsburgh's starting QB this year. He might beat out Russell Wilson, from what I'm hearing. But either way, is that where you want to play? Do you want to go you want to go learn a new system? You want to go play for Mike Tomlin, who loves to run the ball. You want to go play in the freezing cold and a quarterback controversy opposite George Pickens, who sulks after every third play. That's what you want? For a few $1,000,000? Be careful what you wish for, man. This is one of those classic spots. I feel for Brandon. He deserves it. He's worth it. It's all of those things. But he's also caught in a spot. And you got to decide to a degree which one's better for you. And this might be a case where taking a little bit less money is the right thing to do. I don't know. It's not my contract. I can't tell him what to do. But at 26 years old, I wouldn't only be thinking about this contract, be thinking about the next one too.
Right, but we don't even know what this contract is. We don't know what this offer is. We heard a report that it's $26 million that was offered a long time ago, and we haven't heard anything since about where the team is, where he is. We've heard nothing about any reported value or any possible contract offer. There may not be an offer on the table. There may be a situation where the team has decided, you know what, we're good. You can play the fifth-year option or not. It's up to you. The ball's in your court. And Aiyuk is thinking, well, unless you want to, offer me a real contract, I'm just going to hold in and I'm going to chill until week 9 when I have to come back and play football. So we haven't heard anything, reports, rumors, whispers, anything about any movement other than they seem to be pretty far apart.
The Cam Marino thing came 56 minutes ago.
Cam Marino. This is hilarious.
Breaking. The Steelers and 49ers have agreed to a trade that sends star receiver Brandon Aiyuk to Pittsburgh. By the way, that came 2 hours after he said the Steelers have been gaining traction as Aiyuk's preferred destination, and despite stronger offers from other teams, Pittsburgh has emerged as a real option. So the 49ers, if I'm to believe this, not only are they trading Brandon Aiyuk on August 5th, they're taking a worse offer because they want to send Brandon where he wants to go. Got it. Okay.